Okay, Erika, you want to introduce yourself?
No, I don't. Hello and welcome to the first episode of Crits and Sass, a show where we examine character development and pop culture. Crits and Sass is a pun, but we're not going into that right now because Erika's puns are horrible, apparently. I'm Erika, as I just said, and referred to myself in third person. These two humans are going to introduce themselves.
I'm Aaron Kling. This is actually probably my fourth podcast in this channel.
He's a veteran
You
of
wouldn't
podcast
know it
wars.
because professional. So professional. Danet?
I'm Danet. Thanks for stealing my thunder, Aaron.
Thunder! Anyway.
What are we talking about?
And now for something completely different. Today we're talking about Frozen, which is something completely different because I'm sure you haven't heard anything about it over the past, 6 months.
Not a thing.
Not a
Jimmy
single
Fallon
thing.
hasn't said a single word about Frozen for the past 6 months.
Have you ever heard of the song Let It Go? You probably haven't. It's pretty underground.
It goes kind of like... No. We're not doing this.
So character development in Frozen, because it actually isn't the typical Disney movie compared to something like Snow White or Little Mermaid.
And yet, it kind of is, in a way. It follows a similar formula.
It does follow a similar formula, but there is no underage marriage, as we discussed earlier.
They made sure of it.
They did.
Yep. We counted and everything.
Yep.
We did the
We
math.
did.
There's a chalkboard behind this camera. You guys can't see it. Full of mathematical equations.
Mhm.
Everywhere.
Did you know the big giant snowman's name was Marshmallow? I didn't until today.
There's also a lovely little stinger at the end that involves marshmallow, so you should watch it.
Also, look up what stinger is if you don't know what that is. Anyway,
I'm not going to talk about Peruvian donuts now.
Okay.
So character development in Frozen. Elsa in particular is one of the first Disney princesses who's, Disney queen, who's A, not evil, and B, is shown to actually have mental issues, in a sense. Anxiety and depression being the most notable. And we actually see that throughout the movie. She goes from being rather accepting of her powers when she's a kid to considering them a curse when she's older. She actually says at one point, I can't control the curse, even though her family initially said, well, was she born or cursed with it? Oh, she was born with it. It's okay. It's a gift. So what do you guys think about the representation of her anxiety and depression in the movie?
I think it's extremely important that they even went into that in the beginning.
It is.
Because you don't really see anything about that anywhere, really.
In Disney at all. I was so happy when I saw that. It made me go like
I think it's
that on the inside.
It's very much like, because everybody always talks about how Disney needs to realize that they have an audience in the older teenager generation because they grew up. And I think this movie is really them realizing they have that audience and being like, okay, so let's stop focusing on problems that little kids have and start focusing on what teenagers actually have, because they're actually watching and this might be something they pay attention to.
Mm-hmm.
The whole movie just feels really modernized. Sorry, there's a dog in here. You know how that goes.
Aaron's allergic to puppies. It's very sad.
It's really sad. I like dogs. Anyway, so it just seems they've really brought the kind of Disney formula, and this is definitely a very formulaic Disney movie. And I don't say formulaic. I don't say formulaic in the way that it's, oh, we've seen this all before, but it's kind of returned to the whole princess thing, which Pixar didn't really do as much.
There was Brave, but Brave was, again, more about family bonds. And you see that in Frozen, too, where it's the love of Anna and Elsa, the sisterly love that really matters, rather than Anna's interactions with Kristoff and Hans.
But while it's kind of formulaic, they use that structure and their self-awareness of the structure that they're using and they put twists on it that really, really help the movie out.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why it being in a certain structure, and feel free to argue with me if it is this kind of thing, but it works for it. It works for it in the long run.
It does. I mean, Anna and Hans initially just get together, have a song in Disney fashion, and
Should we like ruin things?
Spoiler.
You know, it's been
We're all
6
about
it's been
spoilers.
6
It's
months.
been 6 months.
Everybody
6
knows.
months.
So.
It's been 6 months. You can plug your ears or just turn this video off. Please don't. We really like your views. You're all cool guys. You know who you are.
In any case, whole romance song, proposal. Anna goes up to talk to Elsa about getting her sister's blessing for the marriage, and Elsa's reaction, with raised eyebrows and a very haughty expression, is, "You can't marry a man you just met." And every single Disney princess, for like the last 80 years, automatically feels their hearts crack.
It's almost parody, because
It,
a lot of people make fun of it because, oh, they just met, but most Disney princesses know their subject of affection, except maybe Sleeping Beauty, for at least 4 days.
Snow White is kind of debatable as well, so is Cinderella.
Snow White and Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
Anybody who's unconscious and then goes into a relationship, yeah,
That's a good idea.
they get about 5 minutes warning before that whole stuff happens. Don't take that the wrong way. Anyway, but in this movie, it is almost parody because it wasn't even 24 hours. Literally, they see each other, they separate for a bit, they come right back to each other, and they have a big old song and dance, and then marriage proposal. Boom.
It was about 6 hours.
And they use this as a very interesting opportunity. Would you like to talk about how they use this whole sudden rush to marriage and how they paint the proposer in this one?
Well, on the subject of Hans, before we get into Anna's emotional little...
We might as well chunk that out to a different thing.
we'll talk about Anna after this, but Hans, to start with, seems like such a nice guy, and I'm not using that term ironically. He's understanding, he listens to Anna, they're bonding with each other, he accepts her smacking him in the face.
He looks like the conventional Disney prince, right down to his
Sideburns.
Well, the sideburns are actually an interesting little touch, but
Yeah.
right down to the suit that he wears,
Mhm.
which if you look is very reminiscent of how Prince Charming looked like in Cinderella, I
God,
believe.
you're right.
It's really, really close to it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he has a wonderful looking horse that is extremely intelligent, like Tangled,
Yeah.
or a bunch of other movies.
Sleeping Beauty, actually.
Sleeping Beauty, is it actually anthropomorphic-ish?
It
in that?
is. I mean, the Prince and Sleeping Beauty and his horse are talking to each other, and they do have, the horse does have really human expressions.
To clear up what we mean by that is that the horse, it doesn't talk, it isn't super, super out there, but it clearly has facial expressions and is most likely as intelligent as the human characters around it, I
It
think.
exhibits
Yeah.
human qualities.
Yeah.
And also a common touch with anthropomorphic characters, especially Sven the reindeer and Maximus in Tangled, is that they act like cute puppy dogs. They wag their
Maximus
tails.
actually acted like a soldier or a cop.
He did, but at other points he would start wagging his tail and he would sit like a dog, and he did act like a cop. It was great. So Hans.
Let's talk about Hans, I guess.
Let's talk about Hans. How can I even begin to describe Hans? Hans is flawless. Mean Girl reference over. Hans's facial expressions, actually, if you look throughout the movie, they automatically turn to Anna to gauge her reaction before he shows any emotion appropriate to it. So he's taking cues from Anna, which later plays into the fact that Hans is not a nice guy at all.
Spoiler alert, he is actually a pretty
Beep, beep,
accurate
beep, beep.
representation
Beep.
of a sociopath.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Oh,
he's not just like a cackling, chin-stroking villain. He does indulge in a little bit of mustache twiddling and chin stroking at some points, but especially when he betrays Anna at one point. He really, really enjoys that. But for the entire movie, he keeps it very, very quiet. He keeps all of his ambitions very, very... In fact, your only hint that he might have ambitions, or the only hint that he might be a dangerous person, that he's the last in his family line.
Mm-hmm. And also some of his gestures when he's singing with Anna in Love is an Open Door. He's like, I've been waiting my whole life to find my own place, not I've been waiting to find you. He gestures out to Arendelle.
Never noticed that.
Yeah, he does.
I've never noticed that.
Yeah.
Also, there's the more obvious, him changing what he's going to say in the song to match what Anna says.
We finish each other's sandwiches.
Him constantly following behind her, which seems like, oh, she's in control. This is her moment. But that's really him actually shadowing her movements, so he can fit more with the whole dance, which really is just a substitution for what would basically in real life be a long-term social interaction.
Yep. So, of course, he shows no empathy whatsoever. He wants power. He doesn't care who he has to hurt to get it. He doesn't care how he has to manipulate people. So, yes, he is a very good representation of someone with antisocial personality disorder, who are also commonly referred to as psychopaths or sociopaths, although
the two terms are actually pretty similar.
The use has gotten to be a little debated, but basically, yes, he is a high-functioning sociopath. Sherlock. And in addition, you see little hints, but throughout the entire thing, he's just portrayed as very, very nice, which makes his entire change very, very unexpected and very hard to see, which can actually be counted as a flaw against the movie, because it's so difficult to pick him out that he seems almost too nice throughout the entire thing. As in, how can you not have feelings for Anna after the way you've acted all this time? This is very confusing for everyone.
The presence of two male leading roles means that somebody has to go to the friend zone and somebody has to be the romantic lead. It's just how these things work. It's the same formula that I was talking about earlier. It's not bad, it's just, what you're expecting. But, like I said before, they use that. So like, oh, somebody's going to sacrifice himself, or he has to go away, or maybe he's the one who gets with Elsa. And so everyone's happy.
Kristoff loves ice!
Everyone wins! But, no. They sucker punch you by making, this is our real villain here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's two villains in the story. One is...
the Duke of Whistleton.
No, he's more like a hindrance, actually. Okay, if we want to go with it, here's the three major villains in descending order. The first one is personal demons.
Yeah.
The second one is, man, I remember his name. I just keep forgetting his name. What?
Marshmallow?
Well, not Marshmallow. he's just a guy. He's like a bouncer at a club. No, Duke of Whistleton is third down. I mean, oh my god, we were just talking about him. Hans. I want to call him Ethan. Why do I want to call him Ethan?
Okay, so Ethan.
So Ethan.
Anna, Kristoff, and Ethan.
Ethan. Okay, so Hans or Ethan is a sociopath. But definitely the biggest villain in the movie are personal demons, which is reflected not only in the way Elsa acts with everybody, but also in the way that Anna interacts with everyone. When she first goes over to Hans in the first place, after Elsa has basically rejected her and turned away from her at the coronation party, ball, gala thing. Yes, the big celebration. Anna is looking to reach out for somebody, and the person who quite literally reaches out for her and pulls her back on her feet is Hans. So she's always looking for a substitute for the love that Elsa has denied her, which is seen first in her interactions with Hans and in possibly even later interactions with Kristoff once she realizes that Kristoff loves her. When she has to go to Kristoff to get a true love's kiss to break this curse, she doesn't say, oh, I love Kristoff all along, I'm really, really in love with him and I want to be with him. It wasn't Hans. Actually, I was wrong. She just basically is saying, I need to get kissed so I don't turn into ice. So she's looking for people to watch out for her and to be with her in the same way that Elsa was when they were kids, which then ended. Indeed.
Did I do anything to add?
No, I think Erika summed it up pretty well with Anna. No.
Nah, you're fine. Let's talk about Elsa and her problems.
Yep.
Let's talk about Elsa.
So her representation of her powers representing her anxiety and her fears, you definitely see different emotional stages that she can go through. Probably my favorite is when she's freaking out in her castle once Anna's like, yeah, Arendelle's kind of frozen. Just un poquito. And Elsa completely flips out. A blizzard forms around her, and Anna's voice gradually cuts out as Elsa's own screaming, even if it is melodic screaming, fills her own head. So she's so wrapped up in her own fears and her own anxieties that she can't hear her sister right behind her telling her that everything is going to be okay. Other stuff includes grief, which Aaron especially likes.
It's... Was I supposed to say something about this?
If you want to.
Honestly, I've kind of forgotten about the grief element, sadly. We don't exactly rehearse these things.
We don't rehearse these things, that's why it's called Unscripted.
But I was sitting here thinking, just kind of staring off into the camera blankly, and I realized that all of her powers revolve around, or all of her offensive abilities revolve around pushing people back. She deploys spikes, which push people. She deploys, like, this kind of blast, which knocks people over. And she builds up walls. You don't ever see her actually grabbing a person and bringing them in to attack. You don't see her ever actually, like, getting, like, a weapon or a sword or anything and going to them to attack. She doesn't even, like, fire, like, what would be a ranged attack that would just keep a person at distance. Everything she does results in the person being knocked away.
Even Marshmallow, when she's throwing her sister and Kristoff and Olaf out of her palace, he's specifically designed to keep people away. When she's fighting off the assassin that the Duke of Weaseltown sends, she pushes him back with ice. It's Weaselton! That's really, really cool. I hadn't noticed that.
Yeah.
That's great. Huh. And the grief, by the way, is when she first loses her parents.
Now I
and,
remember.
Yeah. And then when she thinks that Anna is dead, she collapses and everything around her just freezes. Gravity freezes. There is no wind. There is nothing.
Whatever active power she had going on, it just instantly turns off. Including snow falling. And that's not like the snow then just stops and just falls. It literally just freezes in midair and just stays suspended.
It does.
Very cool to see.
And I hadn't really paid attention to that happening early on when her parents had first died, but you definitely see that, where she still can't control her powers, she still can't get rid of them, but it's just the emptiness of her depression and grief reflected in that. In other news, her parents messed her up.
Yeah, pretty much.
Not as bad as they could have. They did mean well. Like, in their defense, they meant really, really well, but it just wasn't what they had to do. It just wasn't what they had to do.
It's very much what happens to, like, a lot of teenagers, though, where their parents mean well, but they're not asking her what she needs. They're just sort of like, okay, this needs to happen. They're sort of taking their parenthood to an extreme that's dangerous for the kid.
They're being controlling.
Yeah.
Probably if... Oh, you're going to say something?
No, go.
I meant to not.
No, I wasn't.
Oh.
Okay. Anyway, we're too polite here. Too polite. Gotta get mean.
Yeah.
Gotta get mean. Anyway, the fighting portion of this episode begins now. So, basically what happens is that, they probably could have done a lot better if they just had Elsa learn how to use her powers.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that when she's actually experimenting with the powers in, like, a relatively safe area, like the mountain during the song, whose name I will not mention. It's a good song, everybody. You've all heard it, though. It's fine.
Release it now.
You're probably humming it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Or just raging. One of the two. I alternate myself. If they just let her use it in a more free environment, she probably would have been able to master it effectively. But by having her bottle it up, she has a bit of an explosive coming of age.
Exactly.
Which just ends up hurting everybody around her.
Because they don't allow her to accept her powers. And because they actually instill this fear, like if people see you using your powers, you need to hide it, you need to hide who you are. She finds herself unable to express part of who she is. And she does have this immensely creative outpouring on the mountain, but the idea of Elsa, Ice Warrior Princess, is a pretty cool idea.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Actually,
Fighting with an icicle club.
their strategy of repression probably would have worked a lot more effectively if they stayed around as an emotional locus for her to be able to work off of. But their deaths leave her just totally without any kind of support. And then she just crumbles.
So she gets worse and worse.
How quickly do you think she crumbles after that?
She was already staying in her room pretty much all the time, although I like to imagine that there were really awkward family dinners where Anna keeps trying to get her to laugh and it just doesn't work.
Really? Like, I don't see them delivering food to her inside her bedroom.
Yeah, I feel like they'd be like, Anna or Elsa, do you feel well enough to just come out and have dinner with your sister? And she's just kind of sitting there while Anna is balancing peas on her nose or something.
Flicking
like,
little bits of food at her.
I made myself sad.
Yeah, I worry.
Nice job, Erika.
I worry that the subtext of the movie might be that they've never left the building.
Yeah, and that's what my mom and dad were wondering about, actually. They're like, why is she staying in her room all the time? Where does she go to take a shower? What does she do?
The room is fully equipped, apparently.
Apparently.
Hey, King and Queen, didn't you have another daughter around here? No. We're gonna get on a boat now. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Right back.
I have heard people say that they think that Elsa's parents are abusive, and I don't think that that's quite the term, because they aren't.
They're not.
They aren't. They aren't trying to hurt her.
There's no malice in what they do. They keep her very comfortable, but...
Mother Gothel in Tangled, the way she treats Rapunzel, that is emotionally abusive.
Go watch
that
Frozen, then go watch Tangled.
Exactly.
It's a world
Can't compare
apart.
the people.
It's a world apart of emotional reactions.
Mother Gothel is like, people will not like you. Straightforward saying it, not implying it, not saying, look, you need to keep yourself safe, you need to learn how to control your powers, but saying, you're looking kind of chubby, you're ditzy, you are vague, you are a... Basically, you should never leave this tower because the real world will just rip you to shreds.
If you go out into the real world, you will be destroyed. And if the world doesn't destroy you on its own accord, your terrible, personality will force it to destroy you.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike this, where it's like, sweetie, we really don't want you to get
safe.
hurt. We want you to stay safe because Mr. Troll gave us a pretty terrifying image of a crowd becoming monsters and murdering you.
Grandpappy Troll, really, that's not the thing to show to a 9-year-old girl.
You could have broke it to her a lot simpler, buddy. Just, hey, be careful. You might want to ease them into it as opposed to showing them big displays, because if you don't, they will become demons. Like, literally become demons.
They actually did, yeah. There's great beauty in it, but also great danger. See, look, don't you think my magic is really cool? See how the crowd's becoming demons and, attacking you? Ah, I'm so clever. Why are you crying?
Trolls, they don't get out much.
They try.
Or they get out too much. One of the two. Anything else we can add?
Oh, man.
I guess we could talk about Olaf a little bit.
Oh, Olaf, I thought I was going to hate you. I thought I was going to despise you.
So, if you go to The Escapist, then you've probably heard Movie Bob talk about this. If you haven't, go there. He's really good. He's really good. Basically, a lot of the advertisement for the entire series focused around Olaf. Olaf was always centered in all the images and the female leads and the male... Like, the female leads are in the background, kind of just, like, dithering around. The male leads are even farther back, just, like, half asleep or something.
Yep.
And it's really off-putting to people who see this. I mean, probably not kids.
Their main audience is kids. They want to attract all the kids they possibly can by showing this, funny, goofy character.
But
who
this
talks
movie
about
clearly
butts.
isn't written directly for children.
Yeah.
No.
There's too much depth here to really just be considered. I mean, that might be looking too deep into it, but I feel that if they're writing in this kind of style, then they probably had the intent of, let's also have the adults in the audience feel something.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen plenty of kids movies that have nothing to say. They're awful.
But we also see things that do have something to say. Like a movie.
Now, where was I? Oh, yeah, so all the advertisement was focused on Olaf, and this is going to be a big comedy romp, kind of like some of the not as great Dreamers productions. The names don't really come to mind. Not Shrek. Shrek was fine.
Shark Tale? Shark Tale.
Shark Tale.
Shark Tale.
Shark Tale. This is going to be a big old fun comedy romp. It is neither big, nor fun, nor a comedy.
People die.
If you liked Shark Tale, you're wrong. Talk to me about it in the comments.
Be nice.
And in any case, we have,
1 minute.
about a minute and 30 seconds left. Olaf is actually a really cool character who shows a really loving side.
All of his comedy is... Okay, a lot of it's slapstick, but a lot of it is very dark, and I think it's hilarious.
His entire song is about his non-realization of his own impending death if summer returns.
Yeah.
And strangely enough, when he's near the fire, he does seem to realize it a little bit.
Yeah, he's like, whoa, this is what heat is like.
He's
But don't touch it, oh god!
he's like, I have achieved my purpose. Goodbye.
Okay, well, any last thoughts on Stuffy that will take 2 seconds?
I wish that we could have many, many more minutes to talk about this and an even longer movie so that we could more fully develop the characters of Kristoff and Elsa even, and Anna. The movie focuses around you, and I love how your emotions show through in the fact that you actually don't have an emotional understanding of how people just want to be alone sometimes.
Yeah.
And the double meaning of love is an open door, and I can't stop talking about this movie. It's been 6 months! Okay!
It's very, very good. If you haven't seen it, you should probably go watch it. But honestly, that's not the whole point of this review.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows Frozen is a good movie. It has the awards and stuff to back it up.
Yep.
But there's a lot of depth to it. It's more than just a single song. That's great, but wears on your nerves after long enough. Have a good one, everybody. Don't fall over. Subscribe, please, or this will fall over and kill us.